All right. All right, Ronnie, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, hey, I'm Ronald Bell. I'm running, and my mom says, let people know you're friendly and let them call you Ronnie. So I'm Ronnie Bell. I'm running for county supervisor, Sacramento County Supervisor for District 2, which is the second largest district in the county, not city, but county. Um, I am a 22-year employee of the state of California who has retired in 2015. I retired as a DMV supervisor. And if any of you have ever been to DMV or dealt with DMV, the job of a supervisor is managing people and making sure the customer is always right. Okay, you have to train your employees. You teach the customer is always right. We're here, we're a service, you're paying us. And so, because of that experience working and managing, I supervise 18 employees personally, directly. And so that's 18 separate personalities, getting them, many of them to do a job that's boring, laborious, and repetitious. So you got to be able to show some creativity in making sure they do what they're being paid to do. And so that experience I gained from supervising those kinds of individuals and also knowing how to go to the policies and procedures of the agency of DMV to handle problems, issues, new things that you never thought you would run into. And that's one of the points I was trying to let people know with regard to me being a new candidate, that the Board of Supervisor has manuals for policies and procedures. And I don't think many voters know that there is a budget plan. The supervisors just don't sit down and work up a budget. There is a written budget plan that must be followed. And once every item in that budget plan has been dealt with, there are some discretionary funds left over for each of the supervisors to, dispense with as they feel so directed. Mhm. I'm a native Sacramento. I was born and raised here in Sacramento. Went through the Sacramento Unified School District. I graduated from John F. Kennedy High School. I'm a UC Davis graduate. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. I took my degree from UC Davis and I went back to my neighborhood and I began to apply everything my sociology professor taught me with regard to dealing with macro issues surrounding the family and micro issues surrounding the family. Sociology is the study of groups, large groups and small groups, And I believe I began to understand many of the issues that not only Black people are facing, but also the Hmong community and the Asian community. The Hmong don't consider themselves Asians. Asians. I don't know if you know that or not. So when you refer to them as, "Are you Asian?" They say, "No, I'm Hmong." And I learned that again as a sociologist, it's important to know how people identify.
Right, absolutely.
Personally, I identify as an American who is Black. I was born in America, uh, and I love this country. I think it's a great country, even under the current commander in chief. If you've ever been in the military, regardless of your feelings of the commander in chief,
Mm-hmm.
you must always remember that that individual is the commander in chief, and
Right.
you will follow those orders of that person. Am I talking too much?
No, thank you so much. I just
Okay.
thank you for being here with us. We're Open
Oh,
Governance News. And
okay.
we do have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
You kind of already started answering one of the first introduction questions that I would
Okay.
have for you. So I'd like to start off. And again, you kind of already went around this, but what inspired you to run?
Again, I'm a native Sacramento and I was born here and I watched the city go downhill. I've watched the increase in violence. I've watched the introductions of gangs on the streets of Sacramento, not just in the Black neighborhood. They got gangs in Carmichael. Carmichael was a white enclave where very few ethnicity other than white. There was a murder in Carmichael, two rival gangs fighting each other in Nokomis. And it doesn't seem that the city leaders who we've elected in these offices, that includes the city council and the board of supervisors, are addressing these issues as soon as they occur. The gang violence, the homelessness, these were initially started out as problems. They're catastrophe now. They require catastrophic changes to occur to end not only gang violence, it can be ended. And homelessness, it can be solved. But it's going to take the resolve of our elected officials to start working to solve these problems. They're putting band-aids over these gaping wounds that are profusely bleeding and slapping a band-aid on it for 4 years. And then it comes back around where re-election. But then they're talking about all the big things they're going to do. And I'm tired of that. I have a solution for homelessness, and I have a solution for gang violence as well. And just crime in general has increased throughout the Sacramento area, and that bothers me. I have children. I'm the father of 7 girls and 2 boys. My wife still works. I'm retired, from working, but I go out into the community. I go out in what they call the highways and hedges because I want to meet people on the ground. I want to meet people on the sidewalk, and that's who I want to talk to and find out, what do you think is not being done to make life better for you? And the last thing is, the cities and the county, we have a social contract. It may not be written anywhere, but one of the first things we were taught as an undergraduate sociology student is that from the United States on down, each governmental agency, there's a social contract that we abide by for the people we show any sort of leadership or guidance over. And we've got to keep that contract. We cannot break the social contract. But unfortunately, that's exactly what has happened in the last decade, I want to say. The leaders in these various offices and government agencies, they're not adhering to the social contract that each of them are responsible for. And that bothers me. As a sociologist, we have to take care of the people. We do. The majority should be cared for by the minority.
So at what age or maybe what period of time in your life where you actually became interested in politics?
Okay, this is a very personal and deep answer I'm going to give you, okay? And I've never shared it with any other interviewer. At the age of 13, my father, his name is Aaron Charles Mitchell. He was the last man to be executed in the gas chamber at San Quentin with lethal gas. He was strapped in a chair. They dropped a pellet of I think it was a cyanide pellet into a vat of acid, and they allowed the fumes to suffocate and kill him. And I was 13 years old at that time. I was a freshman at Sac High School. Um, and my whole life changed from being this happy-go-lucky, athletic teenager, running free, enjoying life, to becoming. I had to mature fast. I have 7 sisters. I'm the only boy, so I became that go-to person. My dad's mom, my auntie, my dad's sister, my own mother, they began to look to me for strength. And because of the notoriety of the whole execution of Aaron Charles Mitchell, and what was happened was he was convicted of killing the policeman, the Sacramento police officer. He was committing a robbery. One police officer in a gun battle accidentally shot his partner. In California, if you're committing a felony and somebody has a heart attack, you get charged with that murder. And in this particular instance, because it was a police officer, they gave him the death penalty. The interesting thing about it was that my dad's trial to execution was the fastest in the state of California. The fastest. There are men who have sat on death row for 15, 20 years. Okay?
How long was it?
2 years. From his trial to his 2 years. And of course, we couldn't afford F. Lee Bailey or any other notable top attorney. And so we just allowed, there are certain capital case attorneys who volunteer pro bono to, and that's what we had. But it was all futile. And one of the most remarkable things that, again, at 13 years old, my dad wrote his final appeal before his execution date. My grandmother and I went to San Quentin to death row. He gave the written appeal to me. He told me, you're going to go to the California Supreme Court in San Francisco, which I did do. I'm 13 years old. We went into the Supreme Court offices. They received us. I spoke to Judge Alfonso Serpoli. He was the California State Supreme Court judge. He received the paperwork. He said, okay, young man, have a seat. I'm going to go review this and I'll come back out. And he came back out and he denied the stay of execution. Okay? And I had to go back to San Quentin and tell my dad that's it. There's nothing else.
And it was at that point where you're like, I need to see some changes, and I want to see some changes.
Well, Amnesty International contacted me, and I began to work with them. They began to nurture me. There should be counseling for the family of the executed. There really should be, but there were none. So Amnesty International adopted me and they nurtured me and they trained me to go around the country, usually speak at law schools and tell them my opposition to the United States of America taking the life of a human being, regardless of the crime committed. And that's still my stance. I don't think as a society we should kill people, and especially in the manner in which we do it, to lock them in a cage, give them a date, and then they keep pushing the date back through appeals. But in my father's case, they gave him a date, and that was the date they executed him. Our government is too imperfect to kill someone and find out later that the individual really was innocent. And I think there have been 107 cases of men and women being executed who they later found out were innocent. And if that happened one time, that's time enough to abolish the death penalty in the United States of America. And I'm an abolitionist. I do.
I haven't seen such a strong argument against death penalty till now.
Well, if you believe in life, I have this saying I usually introduce myself with, that life is more important than love. And I gained that understanding from the execution of my dad. His life was more important to me. And as I stood there in the chambers of the California State Supreme Court, all I could think about was his life. I loved him, of course. He knew he loved me. I knew he loved me. But his life in that moment was more important than my love or the love that his mother had for him. So life is more important than love. I tell people that all the time. I invoke some very good conversations from that statement. Yeah, and sometimes I walk away convinced he's right. Other times I say, nah, love's more important than life. But so that changed my life. Not so much wanting to take and run for a political office, but a light bulb went on in my head that this is a country that kills people, okay, as punishment. And I know people commit heinous crimes, especially those crimes against children. But even those individuals, we lock them up and throw away the key. They never see the light of day again. We don't kill them. We don't procedurally kill them. A procedure for killing another human being, that's horrible. That's horrible. So that's how I got into politics. And then, as I said, Amnesty International adopted me, nurtured me, started sending me across the country to speak as an abolitionist against the death penalty in all the various states. And we were successful in a lot of states. A lot of states no longer have capital punishment, you know. And so I'm still kind of working on California. We've got 583 people today at this moment sitting on death row at Sandpoint. Isn't that sounds grotesque?
I didn't know that.
583 individuals waiting to be murdered. Anyway, my wife told me, honey, don't go in there and talk too much. I've never shared that about my dad before. And I'm not embarrassed by it at all.
No.
Okay?
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you so much. We do have a policing question.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's just get right into that since we kind of are going in that direction anyway. So you've advocated for practical solutions that build trust between residents and law enforcement.
Right.
What specific community-led safety programs would you fund to supplement traditional policing in high crime areas?
I would change the acronyms they use for the various policing programs they send out into our communities. Are you familiar with POP?
Yes.
POP? What problem-oriented policing? You know what I would change that to? COP. See, community-oriented police. Doesn't that sound better than any officer who's part of the POP program, when they get in their car, when they're dressing up, putting in their gun, they know they're going into a community to deal with what? Problems. Why? Because I'm part of the POP program. I think it would change the mindset of a police officer if he was going out to do some community-oriented policing. It includes everybody, not just those problem individuals, but the whole community receives the protection and services of our police force, who we expect to protect every member of our community, not just deal with problems. And I think what will happen if we become more community oriented, we can prevent crime. Everybody, I think, I would hope everybody wants to prevent crime. I don't want, we react. Our police forces are they're reactionary. They wait until after a crime is prevented. But with community oriented policing, we're out there not looking for problems, not responding to problems, but making ourselves visibly available to the community. Your cat's in the tree. Hey, here comes a police car. You should be able to wave a policeman down and say, hey, my cat's on the roof. It's my little boys. We have to get back to where individual lives are under our care and concern as policemen, as guardians of the community. We've got to get away from, we're going to react to this particular problem or that particular problem. And we've got to we've got to begin, I believe, an advertising campaign to the city and county that we're changing. We are no longer going to be this problem-oriented policing force. We are now going to become community-oriented policing force.
Well, do you think it's getting better or maybe getting worse as far as, being community-based like you?
Right. Well, we have to address the problems. There are problems. And I think that oftentimes they overlook the problems, and they wait for those problems to rise. There's been about 3 murders in Sacramento in the last 7 days. 2 of them directly affected me because I belong to a group. The young man who was killed on the Thomas High School campus, I belong to a group called the Healing Circle. the vice principal called the leader of that group and asked, hey, can you guys show up the next day after the killing and sort of go around the campus talking to students? 4 of us showed up. And the kids were not only frightened, but they were glad to see a group of men who weren't school officials, who weren't county counselors, but just men who were concerned about them and their school come and talk to them and let them know that, hey, we're watching what's going on. The police have got to get out of their cars. I even think out of their uniforms sometime. Just go and talk to the kids at these schools. I support the SRO officers or the school resource officer. I think
Yeah.
they should be on every campus. It's unfortunate they didn't renew the contract.
Right.
Politics is what stopped that. That's, to me, doesn't make sense. The importance of those SRO on college on our campuses is extremely important. I thought we learned from Columbine that our schools are one of the most vulnerable targets for any stupid, crazy person. So there should just be a standing, automatically renewable contract for those SRO to be on every campus, because parents should not be worried if their child is going to come home from school. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I don't know how or what kind of father I would have been if I had to worry every time I sent my kids out to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and I'm at work worrying, is somebody going to come to that school and shoot up the school and possibly get my child? But
And in that case, they showed up. But in other cases, they could already be going to that school and they have weapons.
yeah,
They're getting these weapons from somewhere.
well, listen, we have to face the reality of the times. We have to have metal detectors at every school, especially high school door. Especially since we know these kids are packing guns to school. Don't we know that?
Yeah.
We do, don't. Why are we not address? We know that. I know kids are carrying guns to school.
Mhm.
It ain't just because of the shot that was fired at Natomas. We've been knowing some kids are carrying guns to school. So what do? Put a belt up, buy a metal detector, and every kid has to proceed through that for their safety, not to violate their rights to a free education, for their safety. And we have to emphasize that. And I think it's a good argument because kids are bringing guns and knives and nunchucks. You know what nunchucks are? They're bringing those on. One of our kids got hit in the head. He lost a fight because the other kid had some nunchucks and put a big old knot upside his head. So yeah, the police. I'm a supporter of the police. I don't think any police personnel should be cut ever.
Mhm.
The sheriff's office. I know Jim Cooper. I know Sheriff Jim Cooper. I know the board of supervisors telling him they might have to cut, I think, 35 million from the sheriff. I'm against that. We don't want to cut anything that has to do with protecting our community. If anything, we should give them more money. And we could take money from programs that are, every program is not successful that the county funds. Okay? So any of the programs that the county fund, their effectiveness has gone down. We need to take some of that money from those companies. I don't know all of them, but there's because the county funds everything. They do. They go out because they deal with the municipal areas as well. That's why I was asking about Vineyard. Vineyard is in the municipal area of District 2 of Sacramento County. The garbage trucks that go out there. Many of those streets out there don't have sidewalks. They have these big ditches on the side of the road. But nevertheless, the county is responsible for making sure that area is safe and clean. Mental health. We fund the mental health practices here in Sacramento County. Probation, the district attorney. The county. And here's part where the budget plan. The budget plan has all of this funding. What the board of supervisors need to do is once they get the plan, again, they don't devise the plan; it's given to them. But they need to get ahead of it and really start changing this plan. It's an old budget plan. It's been in place. It's outlived its usefulness. It hasn't really been looked at whether or not many of those programs we're continuing to fund are still effective at the level in which we originally gave them that funding. And they won't do that. Again, it's because incumbents are afraid they might lose the support of that agency, that union, or that individual. Yeah. And that's why we should take. I'm against endorsements. I'm against money. There should be we should be there should be spending limits on how much you campaign, how much money you have. There's no way Doris Matsui should have $800,000 against my bank's 200, because my bank shouldn't have to raise $200,000. It's not fair. I mean, this is the United States of America. We're about fairness. We're about the ordinary guy pulling himself up by his bootstraps. Now, all of that's gone. You got to go kiss somebody's butt for them to endorse you. And I refuse to kiss anybody's butt. All I try to do is convince them. I know what I'm talking about. I believe in our good as a society and as people, like-minded people. I just want to live in a safe city where my wife can go to the grocery store and not be followed home by some pervert. And I would think that that's what anyone else, a like-minded person, would want as well. I want our police officers to go out into our communities and keep us safe in a proactive way, not reactive. Right. I want our schools to be safe havens where a parent can go to work and not worry about whether the school's going to get shot up. And this is these things are recurring. And it seems as if nobody really wants to solve the problem. In Thomas High School, a metal detector would have stopped that. You know what I mean? Same thing at Columbine, just a metal detector where it would call. All the schools are gated now. Anyway, I'm going on. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
You're going to edit this, right?
We'll just see how long we keep people interested, Ronnie.
Okay.
All right. Well, we can move on. So do you want a question?
I had a few questions based on what you mentioned.
Okay.
And one of the important question you talked about the community-oriented policing, or how you visualize the policing. But how many district supervisor would be there you need to have on board to really make a change? Because
how many district supervisors?
Yeah, because how many are there, and how is it divided?
Okay. Well, the city takes care of Sacramento proper. So the city police department can handle that. And I think the same principles and practice of the city police should apply to the sheriff, who handles a larger area and their county as well. And one of the things I've noticed with regard to sheriff, the activity level in which they have to respond to is not as great as the city police. So a lot of times you'll see sheriff officers responding to help city police officers. And now even in California, someone told me this, I haven't been able to fact check it, but I've been told that even the California Highway Patrol now will respond to an event depending on how the call goes out. Yeah, you'll probably, and I have, yeah, so the question was, what was the question? So
you need a support from other district supervisor as well to make a big change.
Right. So the supervisor, we're supposed to be friends. We're not in competition. The districts are not competing with one another, but that's exactly what happened. Even with on the city council members, they're competing with each other. I thought we were all working for the greater good of the city and the county. But what they're doing, they form alliances against each other. District 1 and 2 will form an alliance against District 5. District 5 and form alliance against District 3. And so anything that comes up to vote, they've already made up their mind. If District 3 proposes it, 4 and 5 are not going to vote for it. And they do it publicly. We know these alliances, and we know how the vote's going to go.
So, have you been to this district supervisor meetings?
On more than one occasion. They are. I don't want to denigrate my office too. They, first of all, people who come and ask to be heard should be given more time. Okay, I don't know, because I've been around. Yeah. I think if what you say regarding the salary of a supervisor is what it is, then they can let people get up there and speak for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time, but we're getting paid. You get paid to sit and really allow this person to voice their frustration or their position regarding a specific issue. We're not to rushing these people out. The same thing with the Sacramento City Council. That's not enough time for many of these people who bring very dramatic, passionate issues. And then after they voice their piece, we don't know what the supervisor or the county or the city council person did, but whatever that person brought to their attention. There's no public record that's published that, like, say, on Tuesday, this person came and this was the issue he brought before the Board of Supervisors. We should publish our responses to what they came there to make us do something about. In the county, somebody's dumping trash. We should publish this citizen came. He told us about somebody's dumping. The next week we should publish, and even with pictures, we send people out there not only to pick up the trash, but we're asking our county sheriffs to just kind of monitor that area for a certain period of time, so that people know that we're really responding to what they have to say.
Well, if you do that, you will be the only person doing that.
Well, that's too bad. But that's our job. That's why they pay the big bucks, isn't it? Why? And the Board of Supervisors only meets twice a week. What are they doing the rest? But now I don't want to diminish the job of the supervisor, but publicly they meet twice a week. There are other committees and boards that they oftentimes will select a person to attend in their stead, but they go to some of them as well. But I just think the entire Board of Supervisors should work more together in getting in solving all the problems. And I was never a gang member, but one of the philosophies of a gang are they gang up on problems. That's what the county should do. If there's a problem in District 1, all the other 4 districts, we go to the aid of District 1 and we gang up on that problem until it's solved. And I think if we go district by district as a gang and address those problems, we can knock them out. We can solve those problems. But everybody on this District 1's my district, and they want me to be responsible to them and them alone, and nothing gets done. That's why I gotta get elected, because these are solvable issues. I want to solve, and then I want to be able to tell my Professor Stevenson, my sociology professor, as he always told her. He said, I want you guys, after you get your degrees, go use them.
Yep.
Use all these sociology issues, all these sociological solutions. Go out there and exercise the education. You're paying $50,000 for. You emphasize that. So when I get elected, I'm going to go down to UC. He's still there in the sociology department, and I'm going to invite him to my office.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm gonna bring up another topic.
Okay.
All right. One that we haven't completely touched on yet. So how about this? So you've spoken about stable housing as a tool for generational wealth. What protections would you propose for long-term renters in areas like South Sacramento to ensure they aren't displaced by new developments?
Right. First of all, we need to use our vacant land more expeditiously. There's too much vacant land in District 2 in which construction can begin for building homeless housing, not tiny towns, tiny homes, taking over a hotel. I'm talking about the actual construction of buildings for this homeless catastrophe we're dealing with. The solution to anyone who doesn't have a place to lay their head at night is to give them a place to lay their head and give it without strings attached. My program, Housing First, will find the homeless person and we'll give you a place to lay your head every night, guaranteed. You won't have to worry about where you're going to sleep tonight. Once we convince them that we're serious, then we can address, how did you end up homeless? What can we do to help you? We're the county. I'm the supervisor. I have access to mental health if that's an issue. Drug addiction. I got some drug programs I can put you in. Money, you're short of money. Hey, I can get you a job if you're willing to work it. It may not be the kind of job you ideally want, but I can get you work if that's what you want. We've got to make this build out for the homeless affordable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because what it does, it enriches the entire community. The way it's working now, every time, wherever you see a homeless person standing, parked, or the housing value goes down in those areas. A lot of people don't know that. I saw a homeless guy wrapped in a blanket on Franklin and Laguna. I live in South Sacramento. Franklin, Safeway, he was right outside Safeway supermarkets where I go and shop all the time. These are $600,000-$700,000 homes. And we got a homeless guy sitting on our corners. Anyone who comes from out of state capital, Sacramento, drive around, let's see where we can get us a nice neighborhood, buy us a good home for $600,000. They see a homeless guy sitting on the sidewalk, they're gonna go El Dorado Hills or Vineyard. I love Vineyard. When I retire again, I'm moving. Because I want 2 acres. Because I want a horse.
There you go.
If you drive out there, there's horses, cattle, but the developers are after that land. And I promise the voters in Vineyard, please vote for me because I'll stop the developers. Because I just can't allow them to dig up this pristine it's wetland. They have signs there that say wetland, but the county, the right amount comes along and they sell the land to the developer. So the bottom line, more housing. I mean, new construction, not tiny homes. Put the homeless in this new construction, guarantee them a place to sleep every night. Once we get them comfortably set up to where they have a place to lay their head every night, then we deal with their issues, whatever they may be. Once we do that, I believe it's going to benefit the entire neighborhood, you know. And that's it. We got to build homes, and we got to build affordable homes. I kind of want to get rid of HOA. You know what an HOA is?
Yep.
My friend just bought a house in Delta Shore. $1,200 to the HOA to tell them.
$1,200 a year?
Yeah. Just to tell them that they can't paint the house a certain color. They can only park their car from this part of the block to the next part of the block. That if they have more than 15 guests, they have to notify the HOA president.
That's a really strict HOA. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can differ a lot.
But I want to get rid of that. We don't need. It's like they're a strip mall landlord. Mhm.
you mentioned about building the homes for those people who are on the streets. Where would the budget come from? Would the state fund, county fund, or the city fund it?
Yeah. No, the budget, the money, the resources would come from the
Yes.
Board of Supervisors. Do you know how much our budget is? Do you know? We just approved it.
Yeah.
$9.3 billion. But again, what we have to deal with as supervisors, 60% of that is already gone based upon the budget plan. Every time I get a chance to talk to voters, you have to understand there's a budget plan that I didn't have anything to do with. And many of us sit here now, we were not contemporaneous when that budget plan was formulated. We need to pull that budget plan back out. We need to do a public display of this budget plan that has to be here. It's law. So when the supervisors finally get the budget plan, 60% of the money's already spent out of $9.3 billion. So the money's there. And what we can also do, because we have the money, what we can also give developers a break. You know, developers are reluctant to build in Sacramento City and County because our fees are so doggone high, and the various restrictions that they're required before they stick a shovel in the ground. Or I'm like, forget that. I'll go build in West Sacramento. You know, that's why we got so many vacant lots all over town, because what the city and county requires for developers, it really is anti-expansion, it's anti-building. To me, it's anti-affordable housing. This is the city's fault that it's anti-affordable housing, not the developers. And those developers who can afford the fees and willing to go through all the paperwork and red tape, they take it out on the home buyer. They're going to get their money back, and you can't blame them. If I'm a developer, I'm going to charge an extra $50,000 to get back what I paid the city just to put my shovel in the ground. And when it's a $650,000 home, 50,000 going back to the developer, it's not that bad. If he builds 300 homes, he makes a pretty good profit off his construction. But we've got to allow the builders and developers to. There needs to be a streamlined process. They shouldn't have to be bounced from this agency. We've approved you, we've given you our stamp. Now you got to get bounced to the next agency. We give you your stamp. And we got to stop that. That's anti-affordable housing. We need a streamlined process. We actually need just one office of brand new homes. Something simple that any developer want to build anything in the city or county. This is the one office you go to. We'll take care of hooking you up to the sewer, hooking you up to the water, taking care of any environmental concerns. Everything will be housed under this one. And the reason they won't do that, somebody's going to lose money. Somebody's going to be out of a job. I believe we need to shrink government. Many of the agencies, they've outlived their usefulness, that we no longer need them. And we need to replace them with the problems and issues that the 21st century society is dealing with. Our kids are going to school with people who carry guns. Our kids are going to school with people who carry guns. I was born in 1950. I went through the Sacramento Unified School District, kindergarten to graduating from John F. Kennedy High School. We never had those kind of concerns. We had a school police officer, Mr. Betts. I'll never forget him. I don't even think he was a Sacramento police officer. I think he was just a private security guard. Were there fights? Yeah, you know, but never was the whole school placed on lockdown because there was an outside threat coming in to hold the campus hostage. You know,
So I'll go with the next question about your incumbent Patrick Kennedy, and you said you ran against him 8 years ago.
yeah, I did.
And why did you not run 4 years ago as well?
Because there was another guy, another gentleman ran. Of course, he lost.
Okay.
The incumbents are difficult to get out of those seats because they have a base.
How long is he the incumbent? How long is he on the office, Patrick?
He's been in office for almost 16. I want to say 16, 12. I know for sure. I'm almost betting it's been 16 consecutive years. 4 4-year term. 4, 8, 12, 16. Yeah.
And
I'm almost certain he's been in office 4 consecutive terms.
and in his last term, the way he voted, which would be one of the very specific example you can take that he voted and you would have voted differently?
He voted against he voted against housing the homeless. He said they got there on their. I can't believe he actually made this, but he said the homeless are responsible for their own plight. Now they want us, the county, to come and put them in brand new homes. And I'm just give people a clean, suitable place to lay their head every night. You know, um, and so any programs for addressing the homeless catastrophe, he doesn't get involved in because everyone already knows his position with regard to solving this homeless catastrophe. Well, it's become when he first got in office, it was a homeless issue. Okay, 2 terms later, 8 years, it became a homeless problem. 16 years later, it's a homeless catastrophe because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Then, when they built the Golden One, they pushed all the homeless out into our neighborhoods because that's where the homeless congregated, which was, I thought, okay, cool. They're in the city, part of the city. Everything's there. They got Wino Park. We used to call Cesar Chavez Park Wino Park because that's where all the homeless congregated. All the city services were pretty much located right there in the heart of the city. But the police and the sheriff made a sweep when they built King's Arena because the downtown business owners wanted the homeless gone. The Vivek, who owns the King's Arena, he wanted the home. So the sheriff and the police agreed, and they just began to sweep the homeless downtown, and they're now in our neighborhoods. They're out in the South area, I'm kind of I kind of like living in my area, and I kind of stay within my boundaries. So I don't really know how difficult, how bad the problem is in other areas firsthand. But people have told me that there's homeless everywhere. In Carmichael, there's prostitutes on Howell
They got to go
Avenue.
somewhere.
Well, but not Howell Avenue. You're not from Sacramento, California, right? I am. There were certain places in Sacramento
We're on Howell Avenue.
limits. They just were off limits. The police patrolled those areas to make sure they stayed pristine, welcome people to come live here, and not anymore. The gangs are everywhere. The prostitution, it used to be confined to Gay Street and Stockton Boulevard. Stockton Boulevard, but not no more, man. It kills me that our city has become like it is. It's like our leaders don't care, and they don't want nobody else to get in there and do a good job and show them up. Because the first question they're going to ask Pastor Kennedy when I take his job is, what did you do all these years? This guy just got in there and he's already talking about solving this homeless catastrophe, and he's got a plan. What did you do? And they're not going to have answers. It's the same thing with I don't know, Scott. He and I are working together because I followed Rick Jennings. I watch what he does. Rick Jennings lives in a gated community, first of all. He's completely divorced, oblivious to what goes on in the community around him. Plus, well, he lives in Green Haven. So, I mean, the crime is very selective in Green Haven. It's not the overt shooting, fighting, domestics. But in Green Haven, you know what people are doing, that the crooks are doing now? They know that the people who live in Green Haven shop at Bel Air, and they also know they shop at the South Hills shopping mall. So they follow women drivers home, wait for them to automatically open their garage door, and as they're pulling in, they run in there with and rob them, let themselves out off into the night. Green Haven and Pocket. That crime only happens there because we don't have automatic garage doors in back neighborhood. Some of us do. I don't. I don't. You have automatic door.
No, I don't. I do not. I live in North Oak Park.
Oh, okay, yeah. You will
I
find
don't know that.
I went to
Sometimes
Scott's.
we gotta pull up.
Yeah, I went to Scott's house this morning. He goes and pushes the thing, and the door slowly goes. And can't you see that crime?
Oh yeah.
You follow the person home, and they think they're secure. They pull in, they push their button, and
In our neighborhoods, they're finding that out.
that's right.
All right. So I will ask one more question. I don't
Okay.
think we've talked about this
Have I
yet.
answered your questions adequately? I mean, does it sound viable? Does it sound realistic? That's something that can actually, please.
In the part of you running against Patrick second time.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think made you lose last time, and what are you going to do different this time
Yeah.
to make a make an impact? Is there any third person as well in this race?
Yeah, I was inexperienced the first time. I knew nothing at all about running for public office. Not for the county. I had run for city council. Bonnie Pennell was my council member representing my neighborhood. She became sick in the middle of her term. So they did a special election to complete her term. I ran for that. Didn't win. Then the whole term became available. I ran for that. Didn't win. Then I said, okay. My wife said, why are you messing with the city? Run for the county. So I said, okay. A little experience running for the city. I realized the county, I didn't realize how large District 2 is. But I said, okay, let's go for it. You know, I had a little money saved up, and I didn't realize how much money it really takes to be competitive. Okay. I did not know how to access those channels that would make you more competitive. I did not know how important it was to get endorsements, you know, and so I think all of that contributed to my not coming in. I came in second, but it was only he and I. And I believe the first race, he got like 30,000 votes, and I got 12,000 votes. And that's 20,000 votes that I didn't get. Again, I didn't have, even now I don't have a lot of money, but the money I do have, I'm using it judiciously. I know where to put my advertisements at now. Before I was trying to put them on every